If you don't know me, my name is Matthew Hustad, and I'm the founder of the Hustad Group, and we are a Southern California-based business brokerage. So yeah, today's goal is really to get some information out there, to give you guys some gainful insight on buying and selling RCFEs. Buying or selling, this really applies to all of you. Things that we'll be speaking about. Addressing some of the unknown, some things you guys may be familiar with, but we'll try to get into some of the more details of that. Provide logic, right, to help drive the pathway to achieving success and avoiding those common pitfalls. Who am I? Who is this guy, Matt? I have an investment banking and finance background. I've worked for equity funds. I've worked for investment banking firms. I've worked for some prominent businessmen here in Orange County. That's mainly where I've grown up. Started my ventures in Long Beach, and then I've been in Orange County for about 34 years. And I live with my family in Irvine. I've lived in Irvine for about 13 years. As I mentioned, my pedigree's in finance and business, investment banking. I used to place values on businesses nationwide. So that's where a lot of my understanding of business knowledge comes from, working for an equity fund that in order for them to place investments into real estate assets and businesses, there had to be an understanding of the valuation of the business. And I think that was a good foundation for me. Never really had any interest in assisted living facilities. Didn't really know that I was going to get into this area of business. But through some circumstances and a lot of really maintaining a good reputation over my business career has really helped me catapult, and I have a lot of specialized knowledge in the regulatory and compliance aspects of the Department of Social Services and the processes that you guys are going to be facing or do face with owning and operating a residential care for elderly or an assisted living facility. I predominantly, in terms of my business brokerage, I predominantly deal with healthcare businesses that have a state license. So if they have a license by the Department of Social Services or the Department of Healthcare Services, or if the regional center is the pay source for the business, that's where my heightened awareness of the regulatory and the compliance side of these businesses comes from. I've been through the administrator certificate process. It's 80 hours now. Whew. Man, 80 hours. But they've improved the process, I think, for quite a few people. A lot of it's hybrid, a lot of it's online. But that process is critical, I think. A lot of people come to me before they've gotten the administrator certificate. And I think that one of the things that I can do and give them feedback is to definitely start that process. It allows you to see things more clearly, and it's more relevant to the conversation of an acquisition of an existing care home. I think it cuts through a lot of red tape. I think it educates you guys the right way in terms of the knowledge that's needed to be successful. You know, the hospice, the home health side, the regulations, the meal planning, the care, you know, all the residents' needs, the assessment process, what that property needs to look like. You know, so that the Department of Social Services can actually approve a facility license for you guys. I think the property characteristics is very important. You can read all about me there. And this presentation will be available for you guys as well. Just reach out to me. Negotiations is a big part of what I do for people. Bringing businesses to market, making sure that the asking price is reasonable, that it's actually in line with the market absorption. I think that's pretty important. Overpricing is a problem. People don't want to underprice, right? Try to get a fair dollar for their business. We've developed a pretty unique process really to help people, and I think that's important. We'll discuss more about that. You know, it's probably important to mention my family's legacy in this area of business. You know, with all the background in finance and investment banking, equity, placing valuations on business, understanding the Department of Social Services, real estate, bringing these properties and assets to the market and helping buyers successfully acquire these types of assets. I generally am involved in the 6-bed portfolio to 10-bed to 15-bed to 30-bed, 40-bed. I've recently closed on a 144-bed assisted living facility. I do a lot of memory care facilities, but I think my competitive advantage in the marketplace is really strong communication skills coupled with the financial background to really help business owners and investors, even some of the more sophisticated ones, really organize their thoughts about bringing assets or acquiring an asset of this size in the market. So, is this the right business for you? Well, I think you guys are interested, so that's why you're here. I always tell people the marketplace needs you guys. We need fresh blood in the industry. We need energized people that, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're an entrepreneur that has a long healthcare background, that's been providing services to people. I've had registered nurses that work on the floor at a hospital, and they say, "Gosh, Matt, you wouldn't believe what I deal with in a day. I mean, I'm seeing 25 or 30 people on a shift, and I think I can run a 6-bed care home." And I say, you know what? Yeah, you probably can. You're probably the right candidate, right? I think that makes sense. And then everybody has aspirations to acquire more facilities, I think. Economies of scale is definitely a main theme in this business too. I think once you get one facility, try to get a second one, try to get a third one. Whatever your budget is, right? So that you can have the success that you're looking for. If you limit your thinking to just maybe opening one, it may be, a stepping stone, but having a second and third care home is definitely manageable. Time management is going to be an aspect of what you'll adapt to as you grow, but I think for those that are really aspiring to really grow their business, it's not often that people have 2, 3, 4, 5 care homes, and maybe they and their husband, or their husband and wife, or they bring on a great administrator, manager that helps them, that they trust. Those are all positive attributes, and I definitely recommend that people consider trying to expand. And even if you don't have the capital, once you maybe buy one, or whether you're buying the real estate and the business, or you just lease a property, trying to get there will definitely help you stay in the business. It'll give you staying power. The next generation, right? That's what you guys are. We've got a large baby boomer population that's moving into their golden years. And some people, based on their background, health, genetics, lifestyle, they need this personalized care. I think the great thing about the BoardandCare is that it's more personalized care. That's why the 6-bed portfolios do so well. That's why so many people will have a collection of those as opposed to a 50-bed or a 100-bed. I think it's also more manageable. I think the ability to enter that market as an enterpriser is a little bit more realistic. It's more reasonable. So tips, right? Avoiding the typical pitfalls. Yeah, don't let that happen. Don't want to let that happen, so try to poke fun at things a little bit. Sometimes there's a lot of money at stake. A lot of people are leveraging, their life savings, their investment, their 401ks. They'll pull out an equity line on their property, or they've been saving. Their first home is actually not even their primary home. They're going to buy an investment to earn income, to stabilize themselves, and maybe have the business pay for an asset that they may not be able to quite afford on their own. Those are some things that I've seen. And you want to really do things right from the get-go. So you want to surround yourself with the right people that have the right resources, whether it's lending, whether it's licensing aspects. I think the lender's key, and I think whoever's helping you achieve that license is important. One of the things people do is say, well, I can fill out that paperwork. Well, yeah, but there's someone that's probably done it hundreds of times. And sometimes it looks basic, but there's a lot of awareness that professionals that do licensing applications have awareness of that can help you avoid a stumbling block with a licensing approval. I think that's a very important point to make, and we have those resources. That's one of the aspects that we do. By the way, my family are founders of Elder Care Referral and Elder Care Training Academy. Many of you know Laura Farrell or Dr. Michael R. Farrell. It's my grandparents. So it's a deep legacy background. So I'm not just someone that just came up with all this stuff and just tried to figure this out. And it's a long time family history. My great grandparents, Lorraine and Sandy Brotman, founded Elder Care Referral in 1974 in the San Fernando Valley. That's a long time ago. I sold a collection of 6-bed facilities in Woodland Hills in the San Fernando Valley a handful of years ago. And I sat down with the sellers. And once I spoke to them for about an hour over the phone before they wanted me to come out and list their properties and businesses together. They told me they'd been doing this for 35 years. And I sat down and I was explaining to them who I am. And they said, tell me more, how did you figure all this stuff out? I've never met anybody like you that understands all these different aspects of the real estate, the business, the Department of Social Services processes, the P&Ls, the financial side, the lending side. And I said, well, and I explained, who my relatives are and my great-grandparents, and they said, I got my first placement from your great-grandmother. I thought, wow. Yeah, I remember going to dinner at her house in Encino. I'm in my mid to late 40s now, so this was a long time ago, but they're long gone, rest their soul. And my grandparents are still alive in Mission Viejo, California. And I'm in Irvine, so I'm pretty close. Market trends right now, demand. I think that's key. There's hot demand for facilities. I think these businesses are on the radar. I think investors call me all the time. I don't know that they're the right fit. I think people that have a healthcare background are a strong fit, but never discount someone's business background and intellect, because there's plenty of entrepreneurs out there that have figured this out just as well without a healthcare background. And they hire the right resources, the right care staff. They know how to identify talent. And you'd be surprised some of the people that I've helped that didn't have a healthcare background that have done quite well. And so they're definitely out there. Private pay or Medi-Cal, that's a big topic right now. I think in the coastal areas of Orange County, San Diego County, LA, Oxnard, Ventura, Silicon Valley, those are my markets. So I'm in San Jose, Redwood City, San Francisco. Transactions are there. Ventura, Oxnard, of course, Orange County, San Diego, and then sometimes in the Riverside, Western Riverside, but predominantly the desert areas, Rancho Mirage, Palm Desert. That's where a lot of affluent people go to retire. They like to play golf out there. And when they're done playing golf, they need that personalized care too, Just life happens like that. But private pay is driving the market locally. You can get a pretty good dollar for a private room these days. And by the way, one of the things that I've learned is nobody really wants a shared room. They just don't. You're kidding yourself if they do, right? Well, I'm going to buy this 4-bedroom property. Oh, well, I don't know if you should do that. But I understand if you've leased a few properties and you have a collection of them, but I'd say best practices is a 6-bedroom, single-story property. If you can find a 7-bedroom, that's even better. People want on-site live-in staff. They want wake staff. They want, oh, wait, hold on. It's okay. Shoot him a text. I know. But private pay really drives the market. And there's plenty of dollars out there. So if you position yourself right, you have good marketing, you're an intelligent communicator, you can tell your story, whatever your story is. Don't be discouraged by, well, I might not have the right background, but I like the idea of acquiring property. I like this business, it's in demand. Gosh, the market's so high, the inflation is so high. How can I still achieve my dream of establishing wealth for my family, running this business that I'm so passionate about? I've done such a great job caring for people, and that's really what I want to do. Don't let the market intimidate you. Inflation's high, but you know what? There's a way to do it. But that's where the economies of scale comes in, which is very important. I've mentioned that. And having the right property to be profitable, because if you don't have the right property, you're going to get in and out of this business quickly. You wouldn't believe how many people try to get me to sell a collection of 4-bedroom properties, 1 or 2. They've gotten in so fast, they got out just as fast. It's not often that it's actually more frequent than you think. Bless you. where someone has gotten in and out of the business in just a couple of years. They've established property, they have the staff, but they can't do it. And it's usually driven by they're not satisfied with the income, and it's really hard work. The availability, the nonstop care, the benefits are you have a flexible schedule. If you can manage your time right? You can get to your properties and have your staff be accountable and really make it work for yourself. Understanding the demographics and target audience, I'd say get to the coast if you can, right? As close as you can. But you know what? Plenty of facilities do well in Saddleback Valley, Sorrento Valley in San Diego, inland areas, all over the place. You can establish yourself as a best-in-class provider as long as you have the right marketing, good communication skills, really heighten the awareness to your value proposition, the things that you're good at. The legacy operators don't often have good marketing. They don't have a great brochure. They don't have a great website. They've stopped working. They've been living off of the referrals and the agencies for so many years. There's so much room for new opportunities for new owner-operators to get in and get a piece of the market and meet with case management, discharge planning, skilled nursing facilities. Understand your competition. What are they charging? What's semi-private, private? What kind of ancillary services can I provide? William Young, he's a great advocate. Memory care, right? Young memory care. Having a distinctive value proposition for the services that you have and being able to tell your story on what you do, because it's really, you're being interviewed, right? Families are interviewing you. Why am I going to place my loved one with you? Ooh, financial considerations. Well, we're all here for the right reason, right? So I think you guys have all thought about it. What's the investment? What are the costs? What are the potential returns? They can be pretty good. The initial investment to buy a property and business together is a lot more, right? To buy the property and the business together, sometimes it takes some horsepower. Geez, some of the people that I'm helping are putting $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 down to buy a property and a business. Sometimes, in some of the coastal areas, a home for 6 bedrooms is over $1 million. So you've got to put a down payment there. You've got to buy the business. There's great lending institutions out there. SBA is a popular option. You got to be able to qualify. I think finding out that information up front allows me to help people better if they've gone and gotten pre-qualified or they know that what they can buy, they know what their purchase power is. Understanding that balance sheet. What's the income potential? What are the costs? I get the shakedown all the time. People try to shake me down. What does it cost to run these things? I want to see these facilities you have for sale. Well, we tend to only let people that are qualified in the properties. There's a lot of people scratching at the door. They want to get in there. They want to see, what's that facility look like? I want to do this, but I've never been in one. That's okay. But we don't want to disturb the seller's business without, someone being pre-qualified. And I hope people can empathize with that. I think that's an important message. We want to let qualified people in there. We don't want to disrupt the staff. We don't want to disrupt the residents and their family. We have a lot of respect for them. They're living their life. That's their home, right? So we don't do open houses on Sundays. Signs leading up to the care home. Come on in. No. Yeah, we try to avoid stuff like that. We actually don't do those sorts of things. We actually don't advertise, really, the address. There's best practices out there. Could you imagine? I always shake my head when I see the address out there. Like, wow, they've got that baby on the market. I mean, wow, that's search engine optimized. That address is out there. Could you imagine the disruption? Imagine the next placement opportunity. Family goes in and Googles the address, for sale. Oh, good luck. Good luck getting that placement, right? Get ready for about a 30-minute question and answer session on why are you selling when you're there to fill a bed. That's a pitfall. So a lot of people don't do that. I see my competition out there listing that address. There's a better way to do it. There's definitely best practices, but that's okay. Those are things to watch out for. The budget to purchase will dictate your pathway. That's true. You might lease your first place, But boy, there's highway robbery out there. Oh my gosh. $8,000 a month, 4-bedroom, single story. What? You kidding me? Who did you talk to? How did you establish that price? I see people really looking to gouge this market. Sorry if I'm offending anybody. In advance, don't shoot the messenger. But I see it, and I think, wow, you know what? How did that conversation transpire? At what point do you tell the seller what the realistic absorption rate is? And it's always an interesting thing to me when I see that, oh, well, we ran our facility for 8 years, and you know, we're in San Bernardino County, and we've got this 4 or 5 bedroom home, but we want $8,000 a month for it. I'm thinking, oh, wow. Do you know what the private pay rate is in San Bernardino? Well, we'll let you modify the house. You can build 4 or 5, you can build 5, 6 bedrooms. They can spend $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 in that property too, so they can pay you $8,000 a month, and then they'll spend all their money over there too, building your property up, and then you can get $8,000 a month. I see that. That's tough. My next question is, wow, you trying to break the operator or what? You really trying to get a harmonious relationship in there? Do you want the long-term tenant, or do you want them to break the lease after 24 months? And who's representing that? You know, it's a little perplexing, but I understand people. I understand it's their real estate. I understand inflation. It might not be the right property to lease out that way. Or be realistic, right? Create a lease rate that's reasonable, that a great operator can have and can expand their portfolio, or a first-time operator that wants to, you know, get the license name changed and get that business going for themselves, but don't set them up for failure. I think that's another one too, you know, being aware, having a keen sense of awareness. That's my job, is to help buyers avoid certain properties. Oh man, but you should see this place. Well, that budget's important. You know, buying a property, it does require a lot more horsepower. You got to have a budget. Some people try to get investors involved. That's another thing to watch out for. So many people come to me and they say, Matt, I've got an investor. I said, oh, what's that partnership look like? Well, we haven't talked about that yet. Oh. That's tough. You know, you got to have those conversations up front. Understand what the investor's expectation is for the return. You might not have the investor. You just might not. You might be so disappointed, you're thinking, geez, I spent 60 hours talking to this guy. He's been so successful in his business. I really want a partnership with him. And, you know, I think working those details out front will help you avoid another typical pitfall. Buying an existing RCFE has its benefits. You know, RCFEs go up to 100 beds. It's not just the 6 beds I'm talking about. And everybody wants a 12-bed, 15-bed. Well, I want to start with a 20-bed. I know, but you can get there. Just start modest. Build a name for yourself. Get organic referrals. I'll tell you, I sell a lot of care homes, and one care home to the next. One guy's paying $50,000 a year in referral and placement fees, and I love the referral agencies. I'm a huge fan. But the next one's paying $0 and has just as much gross revenue. And I see it because I've looked at hundreds of balance sheets. My grandmother, when I was like 20 and 21, I was in school. And she says, come into my office in the summer and work for me. I want you to, you know, come in the office and help me. And she'd have people calling her trying to get referrals, and she didn't have time to go visit the facility, so guess who she sent? Me. I've been in hundreds of RCFEs. She wouldn't make the referral unless somebody went in there that it was either herself or my grandfather or me or another couple of her staff that would go in, make sure the facilities were clean, well organized. It matters. So you see a lot of different properties. You see a lot of conditions. I think buying an existing RCFE, you know, the market absorption rate for a 6-bed is sometimes in the $100,000 to $200,000 range. Sometimes it's less, sometimes a little bit more. You can buy a business for $150,000. Sometimes they're out there for less. You wonder why. Well, maybe they're ready to retire. Maybe they've been slowing it down for the last few years. They've been running it for 30 years, but the last 5 years, they're just ready. But they've kept it going. You know why? A lot of times they care about the staff. I see that a lot. They care more about the staff. Like, gosh, you know, they've been working for me for 9, 10, 11 years, and they just kept maybe a low census in the 6-bed just to keep it going so that they could have work. they weren't really making much money. But buying an existing one, there's a fast break-even period. There's a lot of unknowns. That's why the popularity of buying an existing care home is so profound, and it's something you really have to consider. Some people say, and I hear this all the time, well, just start one from scratch. Well, that's ambitious. There's a whole process of the unknown. Getting that license set up could take 8 to 10 weeks on the early side. I was a presenter at Pechanga Casino. Gosh, this was right when the ALWP came out. There was so many questions about the assisted living waiver program because it's Medi-Cal. By the way, it's disrupting the middle class. It's tough. But you know what? It helps people sustain themselves. But we were talking about the Medi-Cal waiver, and I did an icebreaker. I had about maybe 150 business owners in the room, and I asked everybody, I said, raise your hands in the room if you're an RCFE administrator. Everybody raised their hands. I think that's who the audience was. And I said, well, let's talk about the licensing process. In the last 2 to 3 years, can I get a raise of hands where the facility license took 8 to 10 months or longer? And 10, 15 hands popped up. I said, okay, wow, that's a long time. And I said, can I get a raise of hands of how many people in the room where the licensing process was under 90 days? 10, 15 hands popped up. And I said, you see that? There's so much misinformation out there. You can talk to an honest person that'll say, no, I swear the process right now is 8 to 10 months. It's a year. It took me a year. And they're being honest, right? But I can show you just as many people that it took 8 to 10 weeks. And with a facility license name change, it can be done a little bit quicker. So when you're buying an existing facility, that process can be fast-tracked. You have the staff, you have residents, you're taking over a business that's cash flowing. Sometimes staff has bad habits that have to be retrained. That's normal. And depending upon the personality, most of the time when you acquire an existing one, the staff wants to stay. The owner says, you know what, my staff are good. I've had some challenges over the years, but this staff is good. You'll like them, And I hope that the new operator likes them. But if there's any bad habits there, they'll find out quick. Particularly for someone that's pretty savvy in healthcare, But those bad habits can be retrained, whatever they are, Things that you shouldn't worry about, And the chemistry may be a little bit off at first, but that can change too. You just have to get to know people, There could be some different energy, but giving them a chance could definitely be to your benefit. Sometimes you come in, you have other facilities, right? You have 2 or 3, you're going to use some other staff, but people try to make it work. Current market conditions, boy, that inflation, these values are up, right? That's a big barrier. Down payments for real estate, that's a big barrier. The cost to operate's a big barrier. This is why economies of scale is so important. Having the right property so you can be profitable. I wouldn't start a first care home with a 4-bedroom property. Well, I can get the license for 6. I'll have 2 privates and 2 shared, right? Or some combination of semi-private. You're last on the list. Or it's the lowest budget. It's the lowest market opportunity, right? You can get placements. There's nothing wrong with it. If you've got 1 or 2 facilities, maybe then consider a smaller one. Maybe that'll work for you. Maybe if you can get a good deal, right? Maybe you can buy a property without a business at that point. You've got your marketing established. You've got access to clients. You've got staff that's reliable. You've figured this out. I think that's when you can maybe do that. But really consider buying your first one if you have the budget for it that has an existing business, because that break-even period can be on the gross, with the gross income, $150,000. If you can net 6 to 10, 11,000 a month, there you go. That's not too bad. You just have to calculate that. Think about it. Might be worth an equity line. It might be worth leveraging your 401k. Gosh, that's my 401k. It took me 15 years to earn, $200,000 or $150,000, and I'm just worried about that. Leverage that. Talk to a CPA. Look at how you can use that as a vehicle for cash flow, or leverage one of the properties that you own with an equity line. That could be a great option. Might not be an option for you, but it's something to consider. Just that you want to get to that fast break-even period. You could make that $150,000 back over a couple years. And it takes you so many years to acquire it. Methodology of purchasing, kind of talked about that, buying a property or leasing a property. Just be careful for overpricing. Someone's got to be reasonable in that deal. You hope, anyway. Buying a property with an existing business, you can definitely get the license moved pretty quickly. Here's another thing, prior operators violations. A lot of people see that and they say, oh, geez. I sold a facility down in San Diego, and they had a type A citation. Man, I read that. I was like, oh my goodness. They were getting drunk in the facility and had a brawl? Your staff? No kidding. And I'm like, wow, I got to sell this thing. I got some fancy footwork here. I got some explaining to do, right, when they read that. They've got to disclose that, right? You know, they should mention it. Some people don't care. But what's important, the point I want to make is when you get the license in your name, that goes away. So if there's some violations in there, may not be a big deal. Who cares? Maybe they screwed up. Someone screwed up along the way. Or maybe it was egregious. I've seen real egregious stuff. I've seen lawsuits about bed sores turning into wounds where you can see the residents' bones and tissues, and led to a death. That sucks. That really does. You know, you're dealing with some of that stuff. People have a wound, so the staff managing the facility, making sure there's accountability there, taking care of people the right way. That's where the healthcare background really has a lot more insight, because you know about these things. Some people don't, but some people can adapt to the knowledge quickly, figure it out. I sold a facility in Laguna Niguel. The guy had a type A citation. I thought, man, what happened here? He said, Matt, the LPA came on the annual visit. I've been licensed for 13 years. Everything was perfect. The hot water heater temperature, the locked cabinets for dementia waivers, the facility was clean, the administrator file with the residents, all the right information, their medication was locked up, all the updated information. Everything was perfect. The LPA and I were laughing, walking to the door. Walks up to the door, and there's a chain lock on the front door. It wasn't locked. It was there. Huh. She says, I can't believe this. The owner says, I looked at her and said, you know, that's been there for 13 years. I've had 12 annual inspections. This is number 13, and I'm getting a type A citation violation because I had a chain lock next to the deadbolt on the front door. So another one I've heard of is not having enough perishable fruit. You don't have enough perishable food supply. You don't have enough bananas in the bowl. You need 3 days of that. What? That's what they want. So, well, they're out to Costco right now. I got a citation for not having enough bananas in the bowl. So understand that it may be a type A citation. It might not be as bad as you think. Doesn't mean they're dirtbag operators, right? I don't think so. You need someone to communicate that, though, right? If that happens, and you have to be able to talk about it, explain what it is. Help a buyer understand these things. Licensing may not approve the way you think. This is a big one. I've sold lots of facilities where the new license was different than the existing. This is where people get their feelings hurt. They think, well, I want the license with those hospice waivers and those bedridden and those private rooms, and I see it with rooms upstairs. The fire clearance on the initial license was approved with a lift system so that a resident could be upstairs. And I'm thinking, that's weird. How infrequent is that? It just doesn't even make sense, but they got it. So then there was a misrepresentation on the sale, right? The seller said, oh yeah, the fire department, they loved us. They said, it'll just be that way. Don't shoot the target. I didn't do anything. I'm just the broker, right? But I can make sure people are aware of these things. It may not be approved the same way, particularly when you've had a license for 20 years. You know, the fire authority came out and they gave us a 12-bed license and bedroom number 12's upstairs. Yeah, good luck. That ain't happening this time around. What do you mean? Even the seller's looking at me like, what do you mean, Matt? I got it that way. I got a fully sprinklered property. It ain't happening. How do you know? Well, because I know. This is what I do. I know you've been running your care home for 30 years, but you don't know what I know. You don't. I've done this hundreds of times. The details of the process, the challenges, the pitfalls. So it's important that the buyer understand that going in. They may not license it that way. They may not license it for the bed count that you think that you're buying. Make sure that you understand that if you're paying a hefty price for a high bed count in a residential neighborhood with a conditional use permit. A lot of properties have those. And you'll be grandfathered in. You'll be okay. It's a sprinklered property. But you may not get the room approval the way that you think it's going to be or that the existing operator has it. So that's another thing to be looking out for. That can implicate your gross revenue, the way you've calculated it. And that can be a pitfall, right? I think that's important. So there's no guarantees. And the fire clearance is very important. I have a very intimate understanding of the fire clearance. They know me in Orange County, San Diego, Riverside, San Mateo County, Oxnard, Ventura. The fire people, they know me because I'm involved in the process. And they meet me and they say, gosh, Matt, we've never met anybody like you that knows all this stuff. They're like, you're walking us through the property, showing us everything we need to see. It's like, well, I want to help and make sure that I understand things too so I can make sure that I'm representing things the correct way. So you got to research the market, right? Know where you're going to be. Know what you can get financially. Got to understand these regulations. When you buy a facility, more than likely you're going to attach your administrator certificate to the existing license. That's usually what happens, right? And then you're going to operate under that license potentially until the new application is improved. Sometimes if you're getting certain financing, they don't allow that. They say, no, we won't make that loan until the license is in your name. We've got a solution for that. That's one of the processes that we specialize in. Find a professional, someone that really knows what they're doing. I'll tell you, there's some agents running around that, they're trying to do a great thing in this space. I think their intentions are good. They might not understand all the components to this, and so just something to be aware of, but there's a lot of great professionals out there. But there is definitely a lack of expertise, and avoiding the challenges and the complexities, I think it's important that it's just everybody's aware. The risk of fraud, bootleg construction, I see that a lot. Unpermitted things done to a property. The first transaction I did was out of litigation. The very first transaction I did was a disgruntled buyer who had been lied to, went directly to the seller. The seller said, I know everything. I've been doing this for 30 years. No, they didn't. They actually misled the buyer, committed material fraud, lied to the buyer. The property had bootleg construction. Check out my 8-bedroom property. Well, it wasn't 8 beds. It wasn't 8 bedrooms. It looked 8 bedrooms. You walked in it was an 8-bedroom property, but it wasn't. The person was referred to me and did the deal directly with the seller anyway. So he really was angry. He was so upset because he could have avoided that, but he proceeded, thought he was getting a great deal. It didn't need Matt, didn't need an agent. And he called me. I didn't hear from him. He closed on the transaction. He called me 90 days later. He says, Matt, you won't believe what happened. Can you meet with me? I met with him and he said, I want to sell it. I said, no, come on. No way. Don't do that. Who cares? Who cares? Leave the seller alone. Well, it cost me $50,000. What? I had to tear down 2 rooms, the walls that were built, and then they did all this construction on the outside of the property. They poured concrete all around the property without permits, without drainage, no engineering, no licensed contractor. The concrete level brought water to the house. The inspector caught it. They didn't get their license on time. So he was mad. And he says, you know what, I don't think I want to do this. I had such a terrible experience. I said, no, you'll be fine. Just Settle something with the seller and move on. Get a second one, get a third one. Keep following your passion. I couldn't convince him. I can't convince people to do anything, really. I'm just here to support people, right? They're the one driving the train. I'm just there to help get them where they're going. Setting the price, well, I think understanding the values, cost of homes in the area. What is a 5-bedroom, what does a 6-bedroom home cost in the cities that you're looking at? Understanding that, and then understanding what businesses are selling for. If it's been producing a lot of income, it might be on the little bit of a higher side. If it's been producing less income, maybe it's a better deal. But everybody has their price, doesn't mean they're going to get their price. I try to help defend the sellers in many cases on their asking price, but a lot of times it's my job to consult the seller to set a reasonable asking price so that there's an absorption rate that can be achieved. How long they've been in business definitely matters. I see a lot of people, they've been in business for 2 years and they want to sell their facility for $225,000. I said, well, you don't have too much goodwill. Well, but I had a lot of good gross revenue, but I don't know. When they find out that you've only been running this for 2 years, I don't know that they'll pay that. You can try. I just don't know if it's realistic. I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't want to waste too much time. I don't want to waste your time. It also matters if you're getting financing. If you're getting an SBA loan, you need 3 years tax returns, maybe 2 if you've been in business less, but that's got to support the business valuation. The real estate side, a little bit maybe more easier to calculate. But if they're going to get an SBA loan, they better have a couple years tax returns so that the underwriter can see that it's an established business. So that implicates for sellers. That's important. Because then without that, you may not get anywhere near that asking price because the buyer with your real estate price coupled with the business price, if they don't have all cash or a huge down payment, they're getting a loan through SBA and it's got to underwrite, it's got to be appraised. So the length in business matters, how long it's been running. The historic revenue matters, the net income, the gross income. Those tax returns, I tell you, I had a doctor who ran a big hospital in the emergency department in Riverside call me a liar. Whoa. She says, you're trying to sell me a bad business. I said, what are you talking about? I said, these guys have been running for 15 years. They did $450,000 in income the last 3 years gross. That's pretty good for a 6-bed RCFE. I like this deal. She says, no. Look at the net income. I said, what do you mean? Well, they made $20,000 net. I said, yeah. You'll copy the return. You'll do the same thing. What do you mean? You're selling me a bad business. I said, no. You'll use their tax return as a template for your tax return. That's not how much the net income is. That's what corporate tax law allows you to do. That's why you file an S Corp, right? So that your CPA can do all the numbers. Make sure that you're writing things off appropriately according to the IRS tax code, which, by the way, I'm not giving any tax advice right now. Zero. Nor am I giving legal advice. Everybody here, no legal advice, no tax advice today. But I said, you know what? Forgive me. You know, I understand that you're thinking there might be a misrepresentation here, but in all actuality, they are using the corporate tax law with their accountant or their CPA to write off what the law allows. And that net income is definitely not indicative of what the true net income may be, but that's for you to discuss with your CPA. But I can tell you that with the hundreds of P&Ls that I've seen and all the tax returns that I've seen and analyzed, generally they're using the corporate tax strategy to show very little income to the IRS so that they can be sheltered from tax, from state income tax and from the Franchise Tax Board and the IRS. The name of the game is to pay as little tax as possible. That's why you file an S Corp. That's why you hire a CPA or a tax person. That's why you pay $1,600 or $2,000 a year to someone to file your S Corp return, and then another $400, $500, $600 to file your personal income tax. right? You've got to structure things the right way. Best practices, right? Don't take the income in your own name. Oh, well, it's just a startup. We didn't think about that. Well, you better think about that. No tax advice from me. But it's something that you want to get going. At least file an LLC. You don't want to have your personal home checking account at risk for liability if something happens in the home. You might get sued. A staff that you think is friendly turns around and sues you. You've been paying that overtime cash. It's okay, I see that too. I see all cash. I see overtime cash. I've seen every payroll structure you could possibly think of. Everyone. I mean, it's, wow, that's pretty slick. I get it. I get it, you know? Sometimes they'll do half and half, right? They want a workman's comp policy, but they're still kind of sliding things under the radar. Hey, I get it. California is a tough state to do business in. Only the strong will survive. Got to figure these things out. But I've seen some people that have definitely figured it out. I've also sold care homes with $6 million lawsuits of liability on it from the Department of Labor. I won't name names, name cities, name counties, but I've sold the largest labor lawsuit in the entire state of California's assisted living facility. Wow, that was some extra talking. 40 staff, all cash. Yeah, they ganged up on them. They found a good workman's comp attorney. Boy, whew, they packed up and left the country. Figured we're not going to make it here. And they went down in flames. They had millions of assets. And so they left the country because they could sustain themselves through retirement somewhere else. It's okay. You never know where life's taking you, right? That's some experience. Market absorption, I've talked about pricing, you know, what's the market going to bear? You can't overprice stuff. You don't want to leave money on the table, but overpricing is a very typical pitfall with all the loans and the buyers. Listen, someone's going to plunk down $1.5 million. They're not stupid. They're pretty smart. They've probably got a good agent, someone they trust. They'll tell them what they think a good deal is, but hey, some people, they do whatever they want to do. The appraisal, everything's got to appraise. People aren't betting $2 million without an appraisal. Oh, no contingency. Yeah, right. Good luck. Well, I don't need an agent. They're paying all cash. Watch out. That's some serious thing. We see it. I think this is an important illustration. Overpricing, days on market. Here's the thing. With care homes for sellers' expectations, it can take a while. It can take 4, 5, 6 months to sell a home in business, you know? It's not like the multiple offer market for a residential property in Mission Viejo that's a 5-bedroom home for sale for $1.2 million. That thing will sell this weekend. Not an assisted living facility. It takes a lot longer. You have to set those expectations with the seller. So when the buyers come into the picture, they say, well, look at how long that thing's been on the market. It's been on the market 90 days. I saw that. But I finally got all my money together, my mindset. I've got my administrator certificate. That's still on the market. I'm going to lowball them. No, that's probably not going to happen either. They're going to get a good price, right? The market will do its thing, but understanding the regulatory processes with the application, understanding the requirements, what you need, right? Get that administrator certificate going. That's hard to close escrow without that. How are you going to take over the business without it? You're leaving the seller on the hook. Seller's got to work, and they've closed escrow. They're trying to go on a cruise, trying to go to Hawaii. Aloha. That's where I want to go. Or the Caribbean, somewhere. But the offer comes in. They don't have that admin cert. They're ready to go financially, but kind of creates a bottleneck. Which brings up a topic. Right now, I think the administrator certificates are being issued 4 to 5 months after you've passed the exam. Keep that in mind. Really no way to expedite that unless it's a large facility and they're being cited. If there's big citations, then we can move it quick. Just like a facility license. I can have a facility license approved in 7 days. Administrator gets hit by a truck. Both of them die, owner and the wife. Sold those too. New license was approved within 10 days. They'll fast track it, but not really much for anyone else. Unless there's egregious issues with larger facilities, major citations, regulatory stuff, all the files, they've got 100 residents and 20 files are just illegal. Medication laying all over the place. Those are issues. Develop an understanding of the regulatory process, very important. Implement the strategies to ensure that you're compliant. That's what you'll learn in the Administrator Certificate Program, how to be compliant. Why you can't have Ajax on the counter in your dementia home. Looks like Gatorade. Wake up in the middle of the night, I'm thirsty. I'm parched. I thought it was Gatorade. That's a no-no. That's me. That's how to reach me. If you're considering any of these types of things or buying or selling, or that's how to get a hold of me. My card's here. Call or text me. We can schedule one-on-one. We've got referrals. If you're placing your facility, individual or portfolio, I can talk to you about your facility and what the market does and what the absorption is, how to price it, what we can do. Try to sit down with you, make it meaningful. There we go. Questions and answers. Anybody got some good questions? Anybody want to talk? All right.
So I've been talking to William.
Okay.
And he had indicated that
Yes,
there might be an opportunity to
almost.
sell a property that has a license in place that's,
Yes.
compliance has all been taken care of without any residents. What's the pros and cons of that?
Well, it's probably not worth as much money as if there were residents or there was a long-term income history. There's definitely work there that's done, but I see that every now and then. It's a very low market absorption rate for that. What's it worth? $50,000? $25,000? There's no goodwill, there's no established revenue, there's no staff, right? It's licensed. Well, sounds like someone turned it around. There's something that can be monetized. Listen, there's plenty of buyers in the market that might go for that, but really that audience is an existing RCFE operator that's looking to expand, that's looking for low-hanging fruit in a scenario like that. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.